Sweet. Hello, everyone. I'm here with Elena, who's our marketing person out in Canada. We're going to talk a little bit about, I'll let her introduce herself, but we're going to talk a little bit about Kickstarter, what went well, what didn't go so well, what did we learn? Kickstarter is a beast in itself. It's different than a lot of businesses.
Yeah.
So we learned a lot, and we want to, hopefully this can provide some value and help someone who might be thinking about doing Kickstarter in the future or doing some kind of crowdfunding. So Elena, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Okay, hello everybody. My name is Elena, like Chad said, and I am helping for the digital marketing PR side of the Cheegs brand. And so what we helped with was putting together the Kickstarter page, general social media outflow, and moving forward, similar stuff. But it was very interesting to do it for the Kickstarter specifically, because as Chad said, Kickstarter is like its own weird world. Like it's a totally niche culture and niche group that really has its own rules, its own style, its own etiquette, everything. And that was a huge learning curve.
Yeah. So we're going to do it a little bit in a rosebud thorn style again.
Yeah.
So rose is something that went really well. Thorn is a challenge, something that maybe didn't go so well. And bud is something we learned that we hope, we'll develop and we'll learn more as time goes on. So first, what do you think and we're going to focus now on the pre-campaign. So before we started, right, in our activity before, what do you think went well? First, I guess we'll start out with something good.
Oh yeah, it's funny when you ask it. There's a lot that went really well and a lot that we saw room for improvement with. But we had some really fun graphics. We put together some really educational, fun graphics. I think that was a win, and that was something that went well. Definitely a rose. I felt like you already had your prototypes made, and I know you're going to talk about this as well because it ended up being sort of a rose and a thorn in that aspect, but you knew your product. The product it was not a hypothetical. The product was already done, and you knew the advantages of it. You knew exactly what you wanted to bring and the value that it would bring to the world. And so we had that very solidly before we started anything. And that was definitely a rose.
Yeah. And like you said, like it was a rose, and then also a little bit of a thorn, right? And that maybe not pre, but during as well. Right. Like just because, and I'll talk about this a little bit more, but the video, one of the things I'm going to highlight throughout this is the video is like 90 to 95% of your success.
Right.
If I were to do this over again, I would put more into that video. I would have talked about my product a lot more before I did the video. So I think that is an important thing because of timing, because of we were rushed a little bit throughout this process. And so, and that was my choice, and we had to do it with the time that we had. But long story short is I wish I would have talked about the product a lot, because the way I've talked about Cheegs and what we, who we're serving, what the product has developed a ton throughout this time as I've spoken more about it. So, focusing a lot on that video, making sure you've talked about the product a ton before doing the video so that your ideas are clear and you know exactly what benefits you're providing, right?
Yeah. But and talking about the main video, just for people who are listening, the main first video that pops up. Yeah.
And the reason for that is because when someone and we're going to talk a lot about ads and during and stuff like that, but when you go to a Kickstarter page on a phone, right, and ads go directly, usually someone's scrolling on their phone when they get an ad on Facebook or Instagram, and they click on it and they go to this page, and all they see on their phone is our video. And they actually have to click a button. So they click the video. If they want to see more, they click, I want to see more. Right. But they have to do it. They can't just see. They can't just scroll.
There's no scrolling.
So that video is the first thing they ever can see, and it either will make them interested and they'll move on and look for more, or they'll say, nah, it's not worth it, and they won't be convinced. And so that was a little bit of a struggle for us. but in our, some of the things that went well in the pre-campaign, we did do email list generation. So we got about 600 emails of people
which is awesome.
Yeah, which people entered in. That resulted in, it converted to a couple $1,000s worth of orders during the campaign. So, another thing is, while creating our stuff, we have written, graphics, really graphics instead of text. And I think we did actually a pretty good job in that. We focused really a lot on all the information that I was just talking about, but the video is what you see first. So if they got down, they would have liked it. But that video, in some ways, I think was preventing people from seeing the other stuff. So,
so what would you recommend for people if they are going to, like, if they're looking at doing their video, what would you suggest they keep in mind for that?
Be yourself, high energy. Like when I first got in this is the first time I'd really done a video. So I wasn't used to speaking in front of people. I'm a people person, but I don't do all these videos all the time. It wasn't my thing. So, I'm sitting up there, hello, I'm Chad from Cheegs, and you're not showing who you are. You're trying to do this thing that is like the professional way of doing it, but be yourself, have the energy, show people what you stand for. And I think it'll help a ton to have that product, have already spoken about that product so much that you know what you're saying all the time. It's not new. It's already kind of come out in a better way. You've already developed it. You've already
it's drilled
in a way where you're actually figuring out what is your product, who is your customer avatar, and what benefits. Like, know exactly what benefits you are providing. And and benefits can be either solving problems, or they could just be bettering something that's already out there, right? So any of those things. But I think determining your customer avatar, and that's something we're still working on, right? We came out like customer comfort customers, people who like comfort connoisseurs, physicians, essentialists, minimalists. So all of these different categories of people where we need to dial it in, and we're still working on this, dialing it in even more. Who is our customer? And that's important for anyone who's going to do this.
Well, it pulls into everything, because then as we go into the actual campaign, then it went into the ads, right? Like that, those who are the customers is directly related. It's not just in how are we saying things or what do we promote, it's in who are we advertising to. So it kind of bleeds further, right?
Yeah. And I think some other small things, we touched on the video, we touched on the graphics. Shipping, do not include shipping in your Kickstarter. You could do it after, and you could do it, and they're not going to, any agency that you use isn't going to, we ended up losing quite a bit of money because of the way we did shipping. And it's just something that they say, oh, if you're a new creator, you don't know. So it's something in the Kickstarter community that you can add it later. Then you have a lot of information of where you're shipping and how much it's going to cost. You have a little bit more time. And then the marketing agency isn't taking a percentage out of that shipping cost. That's a cost to you no matter what, right? So that is something. Do not include shipping on Kickstarter. Do it after.
Yep.
Put 0 on everything on the shipping. That is really something we learned the hard way. And we would have, I would have done a lot differently if I could do that again. Another thing is follow. There's Funded Today does a checklist. And actually a friend of mine, Dick Politnik, was like, dude, you got to check this out. And it's a good checklist. And for us, it was just, we had a lot of it done, but there were some little things like adding subs to our video, some, checklist items that it was just a good thing to go through that process and make sure you're getting everything done in your page. You're adding, you're not bringing people away from the page. You're bringing everything to the Kickstarter and keeping them there. So the Funded Today free checklist is awesome. Research projects that are similar on Kickstarter, right? And we do a little bit of that, but we wish we would have had more time to.
That's a big one. That's a big one. We had looked at similar, this was another point that we spoke about, which is that we looked at other projects that had done well with maybe similar products or technology or whatever it may be. But what we didn't do is look at what they did during the campaign to promote. So it was almost very narrow scoped, right? And without zooming out and thinking, okay, when did they start doing the PR stuff? When did they start? Who were the people who were pushing the messages for them? What were the newsletters that they were on? Because it's a niche community. Kickstarter is its own, it really is. I can't reiterate that enough. It's its own world. It's like a separate planet that you go and visit to sell a product. Like, you know what I mean?
There are experts that that's what they do, is just Kickstarters, right? And so it's just a different game, and there's a lot of, like Elena said, there's a lot of different rules. But you touched on PR. And that was a big thing we spoke about too when we were debriefing, is like, what would we have done differently? And how much time in advance would we have, and I'll let you touch a little bit on that.
Yeah, I mean, at least a month was sort of the ballpark thing that we were going with, which is that at least a month prior, we should have been developing those like relationships and making sure and sending those individual messages to people inside the community, because we were trying to generate traffic from outside of Kickstarter to pull in, as opposed to really harnessing Kickstarter as the engine that's already greased, right? And
also I think having outside things, but that, one of the things that I would have done differently too, off the PR, and if we would have planned in advance, having more prototypes. So if you're going to do a Kickstarter and you want to reach out to all these newsletters and all these places, a lot of them want to see a product, right? They're like, I can't talk about a product and promote a product I haven't seen or worn, right? So you need to have prototypes ready for these people. And we just didn't. I just didn't have enough to send it to newsletters. So
for a PR package.
Yeah. So that was another thing that, if we should do it differently next time, it would be have a lot of these ready to go, send them out, and hopefully get some more promotion, because newsletters were really valuable to us. When we, we'll talk about it later, beforehand or during. But having prototypes ready. And I want to touch on this too, is like, for us, we had our, Elena mentioned this before, we had our product, right? It was already done, but it was still a working prototype. It wasn't done. We knew what we were going for. Sizing was still changing. It was a working prototype. So one of the things that, didn't go so well, one of the big thorns was in the video. I think the first time it was showing this shirt that wasn't perfectly sized yet. It was still a little looser fit than we'd like it to be, but we were changing it. But how do we tell our customers, hey, you guys, the one in the video is way too big. Like, don't look at it, right? How do you do that? We just didn't have, it wasn't perfect yet. So, deciding how and learning how to use these shirts. If it's a working prototype, you need to learn how to use it the right way, and also describe, okay, if, what is this going to be? Or you got to just make sure the prototypes are ready. Like the important parts are ready beforehand, because, the important things were the style, the neck, but we were still working on some of the sizing and the sleeves and stuff. So that would have been something that I think impacted the video and impacted some people's views on the shirt. Was, I think the video did not accurately represent what our product was going to look like in the end. And we've done a ton of developments on, having a slim fit and a classic fit later on. So that was another thing. Few little check marks before we move to during, but use Backers Land, use Backers Club. These are some newsletter items. Get in contact with them before, and they're going to help. You can do paid ads for them too. So, you can think about this before and know when are you going to do it throughout the campaign, so that you are keeping momentum as you go on. Get familiar with KickTrack, KickTri or AQ. So KickTrack is just it's a good tool to use. Cool. So I think
during
another huge thing. This is big. Ads. So Facebook ads, we were as a
Oh my
Kickstarter,
God.
we
Yeah.
were planning on, I had a massive budget for the first day because the first day is so important for Kickstarters, right? So we were like, all right, we're going to go in, we're going to spend a ton of money on ads on that first day. You can't do it. Facebook limits you and makes you kind of work up your spending limit. So you can't just start out spending a lot of money. You have to start out, and they do this to stop some, fraud or credit card issues. They want to have people, and obviously probably with election too, making sure people are doing the right things and they're that they are a company and that they are going to make the payments. So there's a lot of steps to go with that, but you start at like $100. I forget exactly what it was, but you work up $50 every day or two, right?
And even though you started warming up the account a week and a half prior, by the day of the first launch day, the budget that you had allocated was what number?
What we actually could spend was around $300.
And you had anticipated.
That was 1/3. Yeah, that was 1/3 of what we expected to on that first day, because that first day is so important. And so it makes sense if you're a business, a small business, you don't need to have $1,000 in one day. That doesn't make much sense. But if you're a Kickstarter, right, where that first day is really important, it's kind of this weird thing where you actually do want it. So we ended up having to warm this account up too, which meant spending. We were getting emails for it, but we were spending money without much return, without being able to convert anything yet. So that was a downer. So I would make sure to warm up the account slowly and do it over time. Have an account that's ready to go, or use an agency that can do it. That has an ad account. You can partner with some of the Kickstarter agencies to do that too. So yes, ad accounts, huge. You cannot just start spending a ton of money on Facebook ads. It takes some time. So let's switch gears and move to during. And what do you think, I guess we'll start out again with what went well during.
I think that we nailed the first day. Like, I think that we did a really good job engaging people, getting people excited, wanting to support. Like, I think people were very excited to support and to post and share and interact and have that. So there was a lot of really good momentum, and we made it interesting and we made it engaging, and the value was there.
And it was fun because I hope it was basically what everyone's seen, because what I was doing was asking all these people to share one of these pictures. And I was asking everyone. And a lot of people were really open to sharing the content and helping in that way, even if they, maybe the product wasn't for them, or maybe they weren't at a time where they were willing to buy, but they were still willing to share the information and get it in front of their networks, which is really helpful. So on that day, I think we gave ourselves like an 8 out of 10 on that first day. We raised $15,000.
Day one.
Yeah. One of the things I would have done a little bit different was probably personally emailing those 5-star rated people on the email list, because I think, email blasts, for me, I don't answer email blasts. I hardly even read them. Right. So, but those personal, later on, I was doing about 40 a day, right? Emailing personally these people saying, hey, I want to check in, are you on the fence? Why are you on the fence? So I would have done that more the first day, because that first day is super important to get that trajectory up. People want to support a winning team, right? So, the more you can win at the beginning, the more it kind of helps with that momentum down the line, I think. What do you think? What did we learn? What was our thorn?
For during?
Yeah.
Consistent engagement. Like, so having, and I think we spoke a little bit about this, but we went and we put everything on the table day one.
We just
boom. And we didn't leave any mystery. We didn't leave any secrets. We didn't leave anything to pull and keep people connected. And yes, what we put out further and all that stuff was still interesting, but we gave them the whole story from day one. And so then where do people, they don't have to follow anymore, right?
We did not keep any of our cards and strategically play them. We put them all on the table right away. No, I think that was one of the biggest. And what we mean by this is we said right away, all shirts come with a mask, matching masks. We even said all orders, all rewards are going to come with socks, right? So we put all this on the first day thinking we're going to, and we said all 4 colors. So we knew this was all going to happen. We just, I wish I would have strategically thought about when so maybe at the beginning we would have released 3 shirts, knowing that we'd do 4.
Right.
But just after a certain amount of time, be able to and this comes down to actually, one of the things we talked about too is providing good updates. I was thinking updates aren't just like, hey, this is what's going on. That's not the meaning with a Kickstarter. You're going to lose backers because no one wants to just hear something without. They want something. They want to feel a part of something and feel like they accomplished something or be provided something. And because we put everything on the table, we didn't really have much to provide later on. So our updates were less valuable. Whereas I think, you know, it would have been fun to update and be like, hey, we just got $20,000. Now we've got 4 color shirts. We're really excited about this. And have people feel like they helped, you know, they were part of that accomplishment, which they would have been, you know.
And remembering that essentially Kickstarter, people are investors. That's really the outlook of who they are right now, right? Like if someone is coming in, you're treating them like an investor. Someone who's like they are backing that, right?
They like the idea, right? Yeah. So they want to see progress. They do not just want to see, hey, you guys, we did this. Here's, you know, some of the updates at the beginning were like, this is what fast fashion is, you know, and things like that. And that wasn't really what we were. I actually started noticing we were sometimes losing backers after our updates. And that's when I realized we're not providing enough in those updates aren't valuable enough. And so creating valuable content, authentic content that offers people something is what, you know, and that we're really working on it now that's like my biggest focus is how do I create content? I'm sure some of you guys have seen this, but how do I create content that is valuable and that is authentic? And how do I make every step we make intentional?
Right.
So that we're not just talking about things and just to do it, but we're providing something of value and hearing feedback from people and using what they said to create content that is valuable to the people who are watching.
And that aligns with the purpose of the company, right? Which is that when you were explaining both the purpose for the clothing, but also your purpose and your values and how you exist and how you live, they're very much intentional, right? Like you are giving, you don't want to put out things just to put it out. You want it to be so valuable, something that lifts people, something that isn't clutter in their mind, mentally, or in their space. It's intentional, it's high quality. And so we found a disconnect between that intention and that really it's a pillar of both the business and your personal integrity and
it felt there was a point where what I was putting out there, you know, I was told go, more content the better. It just felt like it wasn't authentic and it felt like I was doing something that I wouldn't have liked. If I was watching it, I would have been annoyed. And I didn't want that. That didn't feel right. So, and it's still an ongoing thing that I'm learning. It's like, how do I, because there's got to be content, but how do we create it so that it is actually valuable to people?
Right.
So that's what I would say. Cross collaboration throughout is really important. So you can ask people to put your information in updates and you guys can both help each other out. That's something that's great. It helps create some momentum and it's a really easy process to do. So only valuable updates, more research on the social media tactics. And you mentioned this earlier on the before.
What did they use? And it's looking at how did they use their platforms? What were they doing? And I could have looked further into that, right? Where it's like, how did they even, well, I'm not going to name some, but we had people that we were looking and following and really admiring how they had done it. And we were looking at, again, just sort of the narrow scope, right? Like we saw the product, but we didn't zoom out to the strategy. And so that could have been more well organized for sure.
Yeah. So I think the big thing was keep your cards ready to play strategically. Right. Add frequently asked questions. There's an FAQ section.
Yeah.
That is an easy way to provide kind of support, and it makes people feel like that it's a little bit more trustworthy. You're still, you're a startup, so people still don't know. But if you're answering the questions like, what do you guys mean by sustainable? How are you going to order the products, right? Or when do we choose sizes, colors, and all these things? All of these questions have that section. And I did it later on where I should have done it earlier. And that would have been an easy thing. You can even look at other products that are similar, and there's tons. And you could just look at what people are interested in and take those frequently asked questions and answer them for your product. And it's an easy thing that should have been done. I would just recommend doing it. So that is an easy one. Newsletter and PR spread throughout strategically, right? So this is to keep momentum during some of the time. The first big day, and then it slows down a little bit. And so figuring out how to do that. Lastly, so what we did was we did not check conversions. And I mean and this is like ads, right? We're paying now for ads. And this is a huge part of bringing a project from
traffic,
a decent sized project to a huge project.
Right.
And this is one of the things, this is probably the biggest thorn for us throughout. We had a crazy high click list, which means,
and tell people what that means.
People were really interested in the product, and we were paying very little for people to click and go to our page, but then they were not convinced. So thousands of people were going and looking at that first page, probably on their phone, clicking the video. And this video wasn't convincing them. For whatever reason, we were not, we've tried to we've brainstormed a lot of what were we missing there? What was getting in the way of these people being convinced?
Just so people can think with it, it was about 3 times the average of a normal fashion company.
Yeah, we were getting a crazy amount of click, which is actually a really optimistic thing.
Yeah.
We're just working on figuring out for this Kickstarter, why was our conversion terrible? We did not ads. We were planning on having ads be a huge part of it after that first day.
Right.
And they just didn't. And we ended up spending very little on ads because they just didn't work. And we even did a new video, adjusted a lot of things, but we were still missing something. Whether that was the product was new, so people wanted to try it out. It's really hard for them to decide to buy something without trying it on. Everyone knows what a collared shirt's going to look like, but what about something that they had never tried before?
Yes.
Also, maybe the video, the sizing could have turned some people off. They could have said, this is because the sizing wasn't right. And I knew that, it was a working prototype, and it would have been really hard in that video to say, you guys, the sizing isn't right, but watch the rest and like it,
Yeah. And there won't be the rippling will be gone.
Yeah. So all these things that I'm already working really hard to change, there was a placket, there were some wrinkles in the placket that were going on. And these are all things that
you're aware of
all the time with my manufacturers, but we just didn't have prototypes in that first video. We didn't have the content to show it the right way. So that was one thing we learned. And so, but long story short is check on your conversion before bringing in a big agency on board. We brought Funded Today on board, which is they're great. They have a good reputation. They did not provide us with much. We lost because of working with them, but I'm not saying that they're not a good company. I'm saying that for us, we did not check our conversion rate before. We didn't know. I mean, we could have, but I just was optimistic, and I wasn't looking at the facts enough to say, all right, something's not working here. So we brought this team on board. We're paying them money, and they're not there. If our ads would have worked, they would have been very valuable because they have huge banks of people. They have a huge network. that they can reach out to with similar, similar audiences and all of this information. But for us, it just wasn't converting. So we didn't win from working with them. So make sure if you're going to work with an agency, check your conversion rate first. Know that you're able to convert at least a level that you can survive on. And then, because then that team's,
then they scale
their ability is to make it better, right? They have skills to do it, but we could have known, technically, we could have known that something wasn't right and just doing more ads and it wasn't going to
do more
or correlate to just more sales. Like there was something missing there. So we lost in that partnership. And so what I would recommend is just before you pick a bigger agency to work with, make sure that that things are working beforehand. So I think the valuable updates, playing cards here, we said more research. So I think that covers most of the before, the pre-campaign and during campaign. Now I want to ask, I guess, what was your biggest takeaway, Elena, overall? Like, what was the biggest thing you learned from this Kickstarter experience? Because look, we already explained it's a different beast. It's not like a normal business. You've worked on a lot of different companies, but never, this is your first Kickstarter. So
I feel like there's two that come to mind when we were talking about this previously as well, which is one, looking before we jumped, right? So actually taking a lot more time to pause and observe and get to know the community, get to know how this beast works, how this machine, because it is a machine, how it's happening, where do those, and just looking more, observing more, and then integrating it, because I really think it's one of the more unique platforms that we have. And I think
crowdfunding in general, I think they're
fascinating.
Yeah, because there are people that really love it. And
there were people who were following, right? And like these big backers, and just understanding more of the mechanics. Like these people would back and then they back out, or they back, and they're looking and they're finding, it's like, it's a very specific mindset. And then in addition to that, viewpoint, remembering to actually look at it from the perspective of somebody who doesn't have any information. So both,
and that's kind of an always thing for business.
100% it is. So what about for you?
Biggest takeaway video is 95% success. I really believe that is huge. Do not include shipping. And these are like my main three things. If I were going to tell someone, do not include shipping, warm up your ad account, and make sure your conversions work. Besides that, there's so many little things there's so many resources that you can do as long as you do it well and you look through it. But those are three things that no one really, and maybe I should have known it, but I didn't. So I learned the hard way through that. And some of them didn't affect us that much, but the video thing, I think, affected us quite a bit. And the conversion rate affected us quite a bit as well. So, I think that we would have, it would have been a different story. If the ads would have converted, it would have been a different project. We would have crushed it. Where we did really well, but we didn't, we had more,
I know what you mean.
We had larger goals. So, and playing your cards strategically. So those would be my biggest takeaways. But video. Yeah. So, in terms of the next question is like, what was the most fun part? What did we enjoy? And I think that was just kind of, for me, it was learning this Kickstarter thing and being able to hear some feedback and be able to get the data, right? The point of a Kickstarter is PR, getting data and analytics that'll help you later on, right? To kind of predict your sales, predict daily sales. And the nice thing is because we didn't have, the paid ads weren't working, we got a lot of organic work.
Huge.
But also for us, which is really big too, and I think I actually didn't mention this earlier, was newsletters were really valuable. We had a product that wasn't $20. So, we were paying for a lot of these newsletters. And these were like Kickstarter specific, backers land, back. Okay, so I'm gonna start where we left off. Our recording did end, so I'm just gonna finish this off with some closing thoughts. We were talking about newsletters. That's Backerland, Backer Club, Backer Tuesday. These are crowdfunding specific groups of people that back projects all the time. So they're good people to get your product in front of. We found it good for us because if we got a few orders from it, it was almost always worth it, and we got some good exposure. I would suggest doing a lot of these newsletters and strategically placing them throughout your campaign. For us and the type of product we had, it was worth it. So, Cheegs, what to expect what are we doing now and what to expect in the coming months? Okay, so we just did send out our survey. So if you are a backer, you have an opportunity to choose your color, your size, and your cut. Please check your email. It'll be there. We'll send some follow-ups if we do not hear back from you. We also have some really cool extras in there. We did get our short sleeve shirt, the short sleeve version of the collar-free future dress shirt. This was something that a lot of people reached out about, so we're really excited about it. And it's available in all 4 colors. So that's on an extra there if you are a backer. If you did not back the project and maybe you missed it, it is not too late. You could go to our bio and click the link there. You could still pre-order the product and it'll be delivered in February, okay? So it's not too late for you to get your collar-free future dress shirt. Go to the link there. These next few months, we're gonna be really focused on production, getting the products to you on time and getting it right. So that's gonna be the main focus. We've also got a few more products that you're gonna be hearing about in the coming months. We're really excited about that. But also we got this in-between time where we're gonna be focused a lot on positioning Cheegs where it needs to be to best succeed. So it's gonna be a lot of strategizing, marketing strategy, and yeah, like I said, positioning us to do what we need to do in the coming months. And so when we do have inventory, we're ready to go. We're really excited about that. It's a unique time. If you do have any questions regarding what you just heard in this Kickstarter video, if you're planning on doing a Kickstarter of your own and you have questions regarding our experience, we are not experts, but I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to help in any way I can. We did do it, but we're not experts. So leave us questions. If you'd like to hear something or if you got questions regarding anything Cheegs, let me know. Give me an email or shoot me an email at info@cheegs.com. Thank you.